Hi everyone, welcome to Stars and Cars 2024, and we're going to start with episode 13, which is right on time because it comes to number 4, and we're going to be talking about the new moon in Capricorn. Welcome back, Marissa, nice to see you.
You too. Happy New Year. It's
Right.
2024. We made it.
I know it's been a bit of a crazy end of 2023 and beginning of 2024.
Indeed. Yes. And it feels like it was longer than it has been, right? We're sitting here like, how has it only been 11 days into the new year? Because it feels like so much more.
Exactly, and we just noticed that we started recording at 1:11 on the first month of the year, 11th day of the year, so it's all adding up together to help us navigate these energies of the year number 8, also associated with Saturn. So I think this lunation is definitely a good place to start this year.
Yeah, this is great. This feels really good as far as really laying some groundwork and framework for the year ahead. It's really going to set the tone and definitely a time for seeding, what we're looking to manifest as we move into this 8 year for sure.
Exactly, and as we both were talking to our audience, we have the 4 lunations in Capricorn this year, so it's got a lot of Capricornian, Saturnian nature to it, and that's all about structure and authority and emotional maturation. So I'm really curious to see what cards are going to come through, because I've seen your empowerment pack and what cards came out for that one. And I know obviously what's going on energetically with astrology, so it's definitely all showing us a certain pattern, which is giving us the blueprint for 2024.
Absolutely. And I love that you said blueprints because we know that that was one of the cards that came up with what we are creating and co-creating. So me too. I'm not going to say too much because we're going to see what comes up organically here in this energy, but definitely all those key words that have been coming up of determination and focus and really getting into laying a structure, framework, groundwork for where we're headed. So I guess we should just get into it and get
Yep,
the Queen of
let's
the Moon
dive in.
out here.
Let's
Get
dive
the
in.
Queen of the Moon in here and see what's coming up.
If there will be some repeaters.
Yeah. Well, because the first card that came up was the same theme that had come forward for the full moon in Cancer. And it was patience. So that told me, like, still be patient. If we were told to be patient at the end of 2023 and then pull it again, there was something there, and that's where we've been uncovering the messages. So we'll see what's coming in to be added here.
Oh, because this is a paradoxical new moon. It's a new moon, but we are ending a lot of old cycles. There is no coincidence we have 2 new moons and 2 full moons in 2024, the year number 8. So we will need a lot of patience because the things are being created and dissolving at the same time.
Yeah, which is also pushing us out of like a new structure, a new framework where we're so conditioned to say, oh, well, full moon, releasing, letting go, shedding, new moon, planting seeds, intentions. What do we want to manifest? And it's like, actually, it's all happening.
Yeah,
It's
right.
all happening.
That's why I think, like that's why I call my video this multidimensional self, because I think we are more and more embracing our multidimensionality, which I know you and I be talking about. That this first week we already feel like we're living in different universes. Like there are so many things happening simultaneously.
And time is just so trippy. But is it, or is it just how we are? Ooh, oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh
Resistance.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. So that is definitely bringing in too. Like we were just talking about being relinquishing control, right? Releasing resistance and this idea of, what we might be holding on to with this fisted grip, prying it out of my dead cold hands, like this way that I'm so accustomed to, that's comfortable devil energy, like just the idea that we're being pulled into this new energy, and it's almost like we're still holding on to the ground and take it with us, like we're
Yeah.
we're on new ground, but it's like I took it with me. Um Yeah. Wow. So this is card 25,
Number 7.
7 energy. And yeah, I mean, what are we resisting? And what is like, I believe this card does talk about covert and overt resistance. So the subtle ways that resistance shows up. And it's funny because I feel like I was thinking about this because I have a lot of tasks to do right now, and they're coming from many different places in my life. And some of them I want to do, and other things I really don't want to do. And so I was thinking like, oh, I still have to answer that text message. And I'm like, it just takes so much, like, I don't want to have to type it all out. So then it's just like, I just like forget about it. Like, and it's like this covert resistance. Because the truth is, I really don't want to do it. And that I find energy, I find the way to do other things that I enjoy or that I'm more enthusiastic about. And then other things just have a way of, the sneaky energy that just keeps me from being productive or from opening up to, I'm holding on very tightly and rigidly is what I'm feeling there. Just like old ways and comfort zones and, um, a resistance to allowing.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel this is literally the square to the nodes, because this lunation is squaring the nodes together with Pluto, because Pluto for the last time is squaring the south node. Well, both nodes, but the resolution the south node, and and Venus as the ruler is in Sagittarius. So we are still holding on to the old stories, to the old pattern, which we know that is not going to take us any further, but we're still holding on to it because there is nothing new created to replace it. So it's like, well, but what am I, what am I letting this go for if I can't see the new, because it hasn't manifested yet? So this is why, and to be in that in between, which is where we are in the in between. It is an uncomfortable place, because we need to trust, we need to surrender and trust. And I know
Yeah.
this has been coming up on my radar, and it's not easy, because the brain, our ego, only knows what it knows, so it wants to know.
Yeah. I was just like, it was on the tip of my tongue. I'm like, there it is, trust too. Like, it's like we are invited to trust, to relinquish the perceived control, because of course we don't have control. We just feel that way and we like that feeling, and we want to get back to that sense of equilibrium, and it feels very uncertain. So then, we hold on to what we know, even when we know that that has to go, or that it's no longer serving, or that it's not even what we want, but it's what we know. Yeah, so there's definitely this element of those things that we're still bringing with us, that's like clinging on or hanging on, that we have this opportunity to release.
It's holding on to the tangible, because Capricorn is tangible, is the earth. It wants to, like, exactly like what the hand is doing. It's holding on to the earth, to the tangible, like, ah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, like literally gripping onto the earth. Now, the mantra for this card says, I flow through resistance and I am in control. I feel like we've gotten this before, because, or I mean, I know
yeah,
I
we did.
have
We
right
did.
away. I
Yeah.
can see overt and covert, because I understand, that there are these different kinds of resistance. And it's interesting because it's speaking to the resistance that comes up when we keep getting obstacles placed in our way, and our way is blocked. And then, for example, if we're trying to get a particular job in a particular field, but no matter what we do, it doesn't happen. That is an external or overt resistance. Like something is happening on the external that's preventing us or blocking us from something. But then we have, and also to that's funny because didn't I say that about man's rejection is
Yes.
God's
Yes.
protection, right? We were talking about that in the new moon reading, actually, that, I don't remember which cards were coming up there, but maybe we'll see them again in the psychic tarot. Um, when things don't go our way, or when we're constantly getting blocked and we're encountering this resistance from the external, and we get really hung up on why that's happening and it's not fair, or, I thought I did everything I was supposed to do and then it didn't happen in this like linear way. And then oftentimes it's on the back end, in hindsight, that we start to see, you know, really what was that all for, and how the path that we ended up being redirected on took us precisely where we needed to be, in the way that, you know, had we not, and then we could think like, what would it have been like had I not resisted so much the whole way? Because I always say kicking and screaming. I go kicking and screaming, like it's like I'm going, but I don't want to, and I'm going to make sure you know I don't want to go with this earth in my hands.
Right. Yeah, like literally seeing somebody being dragged on the floor and just leaving the nails marks, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the covert resistance is what occurs when we say that we really want to do or complete something, but we feel resistance. This is what I was saying. I say, like, I want to get caught up, I want to make sure everything's all figured out, but then I don't take the action steps that could result in me being caught up, because there's certain things that I say I want to do, but maybe actually I don't, or I have to look at, you know, how that's coming up, because that can be more sneaky, you know, because all of these forms of procrastination come in. That's what I used to call the sneaky P's, you know, the things that are real sneaky that all start with P. So that was like perfectionism and procrastination, and people pleasing was another one. But yeah, they can be sneaky, right? They can be covert.
Yeah, because we feel that these things like, oh, that these things are okay, these are good because everybody's doing that, you know, like
Yeah.
kind of we find like, which is again this Libra, you know, this like externalization of our power, because everybody's doing it, so it must be okay then, right? Because we normalize things that actually are not so normal and are not necessarily healthy for us, but we normalize them because everybody's doing them. So that's
Yeah.
why I feel with this new moon in Capricorn squaring the nodes and together in conjunction with Pluto, and there are all these other things going on, you know, like Mars is squaring, is sextile in Saturn, and Uranus is trining this moon and stuff like that. We are becoming more and more aware where actually this is stifling, this is actually restricting us now, and we need to like start looking into, okay, but what do you want and what you're going to do about it? How are you going to take the responsibility, rather than saying, well, everybody else is doing it, must be okay, let's just point the finger at everyone. But with this year number 8 and all these Capricornian, Saturnian themes we have flying around, it is about self-responsibility. Like it's actually up to you, you know, you decide, and then you have to take the responsibility for the whatever comes out of it. So even with this resistance, where are we resisting taking that responsibility? Because it's just easier to make excuses why I can't do it, and it's not my fault, and you don't understand.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we all been there.
Yeah. Or like if it doesn't work out, then it's like, well, you know, I guess we all go down together then, because we're all doing the same thing. Like it's hard. I keep hearing like taking the path of least resistance, you know, and this idea of it can feel on the surface like it's easier. It's the easy button to get, you know, like the way of going, because it's where everybody's already, they've already worn that path. It's well worn. Like that's the way you do it, you know, and we are having an opportunity to learn a whole new way and to blaze a whole new trail, you know, a new path forward. And that feels, you know, we're resisting in some ways because it's uncertain. We feel out of control, you know, and so we cling to what we do know to bring back that hit, that feeling of a perception of control, you
Yeah,
know. So
it's about the road less traveled. That's what's coming up for me, the road less
yeah.
traveled. But this
So
is what
not
makes it the
necessarily
paradox.
least resistance, but less traveled. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what creates the paradox, because it is a new moon, but we don't want to do something new. Like we are
Yeah.
invited to do it, but we are just like, but oh, look at all these things that are already in place, all these roads that already we can see the pathway. But that's why we have the full moon, 2 full moons in Capricorn too, because we're going to have the illumination of this process, and what this like how is this going to manifest, and what is it going to represent in practice for us, because Pluto will be already in Aquarius. So
So really, this is just like this inception point, this seeding point where we're not necessarily going to see yet the
no.
whole picture, right? Yeah. So it's really important to have the envisioning, you know, and we were talking about this too, like the seed, where we're invited to be present. So come into the present moment and be like, here is the seed, right? And marvel at the seed, because even though right away my thoughts go to the bloom. I'm imagining what I want this to become, and I'm already like putting my energy there. But actually, isn't it amazing that that seed already has that template for exactly what it is going to become, even though I can't see it? And there's a trust in there, right? There's this understanding that I'm going to plant this seed now, and I'm going to be present with it in its current form, so that I can experience the entire growth process and not just blink and, it's a full-size sunflower, or whatever, wherever I'm heading. So there's this energy of being present, but yet also, having that intention for, yes, we want to kind of have this vision or this idea of what we want with this seed, but also, allowing that to unfold divinely.
That's where the patience comes in.
That's where the patience come
But
in, and the blueprints from creation, right? Because it takes all of those things. And sometimes we go back to the drawing board. We come back because we don't know what we don't know, right? So the magician energy is like, okay, I'm going to create this thing and I'm going to make this magic. And then there is an outcome, and it may or may not be what I had intended. It may or may not work. There could be a mistake in there, but now it's like I've gathered information. I take that back to the drawing board and we move from there. So we're continually ebbing and flowing in and out of these states of, action and inaction and going within and being without, and
this is literally what you describe is the Mercury square to Neptune, the number 3, which was exact on the 8th, but I mean it's still in effect. And this is post Mercury retrograde, because we had the Mercury retrograde during Capricorn season, starting retrograde in Capricorn, going back into Sagittarius, conjuncting Sun just before, Mars just after. And now we had 3 squares between Mercury and Neptune. The first one was for the full moon in Gemini, second one was for the full moon in Cancer, and now is still in effect for this new moon in Capricorn. And that's literally what you described. We don't know what it's going to look like, because Mercury is in a closing phase with all these other planets, Saturn, Pluto, Neptune, all of it. He's closing the gap, he's closing the cycle. So the way we're going to create the new, we don't know what it's going to look like, because we need to look at it differently. So we need to let go of the past way of identifying the expectation of the old, because we're now going to visualize and we're going to trust that that which is coming is not going to look the same, because we know the same doesn't work. So it's literally this process of the Mercury square in the Neptune, because we're letting go of this, that which we perceive and identify with our logical mind, and we can clearly see which doesn't work and no longer resonates. It needs to be let go of. So there is a crisis in consciousness with the last quarter square, because we need to shift something within us. And then when the new cycle will begin, we find a new way of identifying this process, because the function of Gemini and Mercury is to identify the external environment in a way that creates connection. Because between Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, there is trine. There is a grand air trine, and that's what I feel with especially Uranus being now trining this lunation. That's what it is, because Uranus is breaking our foundation of this security and stability, this Taurus. And I also liked how you were bringing the finances into your reading, and because it's showing us that the way forward is different from what we know. Because with Uranus, expect the unexpected. So with this resistance card, it's tapping into collective energy, which is saying, but we don't wanna, because the new is not out there yet, and we are resistant to change because it's putting us into this in between, which is the unknown. But with everything that's going on in the sky, you don't have much choice.
Yeah. So maybe we can look for some guidance on the best way to experience the in-between, just to kind of get some insight into what we need to know, do, and be in the in-between, and in this transition, and through resistance and trust and all the things.
But we also know that even though this is a new moon, which is dark, we know there is a lot going on in the earth, even though you don't see it, and there is a lot going on behind the veil, even though you don't see it. So there are things happening, they just haven't manifested into tangible, visible form yet.
It's the seed. but we trust that, yeah, we put it in there, we gave it the water and the sunshine and the things that it needs, and so now we wait. And are we going to stand there like this waiting, or are we going to be like this, ready to receive and pick the flower when it's, you know, that's the thing. It's like when I'm like this, I can't pick up the new. I can't receive because I'm resisting and I'm holding on. So be open, right? Loose and flexible and malleable.
Cool.
Right. So we're going to do psychic tarot for this one, which is also what I did for the empowerment pack. So I'm very curious to see if we have any overlap. I did a special spread with that one, but we're going to do our 3-card spread just to see here in the in-between, in the gestation period or the germination period, what to know, do, and be.
And also because this new moon is the opening of 2024 lunation calendar, it's going to kind of give us a flavor of what to expect for the next 12 months.
Setting the tone.
Exactly.
All right.
Ooh, the Neptune is coming up.
Hanged man with the word sacrifice. Okay, yeah. There's not a lot of movement there, right? It's a little bit of a hold up or a pause there. That was another word we've been getting a lot too. Pause, patience, perseverance. Yeah, so we'll see what she's got going on there. And
prioritization, right? That was your
prioritization, right? That's another one. I know P is just such a that word, that P's and R's, right? We get a lot of re's as well. All right, let's see. What do we have to do as far as action in the in-between? Trapped in fear, 8 of Swords. Okay, so there's that prison, that perceived prison. Wonder what we need to do there. And then our card to be and receive. That one's staring at me. More swords. That's going to be the 9, right? So what in order there? 9 of Swords. Suffering in silence. In between, though. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get that with this card for sure.
And I think there was a week when you did the card pool when it was like 8 and 9 of Swords. I don't know. Like
yeah, that does sound familiar. I don't know if it was this deck, but probably not. But no, it might have been this deck. But I know for sure there was like this subsequent, and it was the Swords, because again, that's the other place we go. Like when we've got to figure stuff out, we go to the head because we want to analyze this. We want to use logic. We want to figure out, you know, in this really linear way. And we know that this year we're being brought into the heart, right? With this energy of 8, which correlates with the strength card in the tarot, with the Leo energy of coming into the heart and then reconciling all that energy. So makes sense that, you know, the resistance comes in, and as a result we feel bound, we feel held here, but actually look at that rainbow that's coming in. There's this awareness and insight and illumination that comes through the stuckness, if only we allow. Or it can feel like an absolute prison, right? And we can feel like we're on a complete island and miles to go before we get there. So it's all about perception. Yeah.
Yeah, because the 9 is representing that it's almost the end. We're almost there, but we can't see it because we're looking through our logical eyes, not our third eye, which is also with this, you know, the 12, which is Hanged Man, which represents Neptune. This just like these 3 cards together are exactly talking to me about the Mercury square to Neptune. Because it's saying the old way of thinking, the old way of seeing reality is ending, because it's limiting. It doesn't allow for expansion. And with this, you know, this being the Neptune, you know, the Hanged Man, it's saying that we need to shift our perception. We need to go upside down and go within, upside. It just has to, the way of seeing the world has to change. It has to shift because it's limiting, because it doesn't allow for the multidimensionality. And that's what keeps coming up for me and for you. And especially since we entered into this year, we're becoming more and more aware into how everything is multidimensional. and happening simultaneously. But the mind only knows what it knows. So that's why the Eight of Swords is saying you are in the prison of your own mind because you think that's all there is.
Yeah.
But with the Nine of Swords, it's saying that, well, but this is coming to the close.
Yeah. And I feel like, not to jump right there, but like one of the things I always see with this card is, you know, suffering in silence is so heavy. Like those words feel so heavy to think that the Nine of Swords feels that way. But I always think, like, you know, look how far you've already come to get here, you know, and that's what you see with these steps, to say that, like, and you were saying this too in one of your videos, I believe, where you were talking about how everything you've come through, you made it because you're here, you know, like all the different things that you've experienced have all paved the way, right? So this, and that's the thing too, yeah, like, so okay, the road that people always take, and the one that we're so familiar with, it ends here. She can't keep going that way because there doesn't appear to be any path there. It's just clouds or mist, you know, like she can't keep walking. This is where the sidewalk ends. So it's about, again, being in this in between and seeing that, like, it is in the distance. We're not quite there yet, but be here, be where you are, because in this process of really reflecting and seeing how far you've come and how all of those experiences have created your current reality, you know, there's something still to be seen in that, which is what the Hanged Man purpose serves. Because, you know, usually this card, the figure is upside down, turned upside down, flipped upside down on your head. You know, here she's upright. And in almost every Hanged Man, you always see illumination on the crown. You always see there's light coming in. And this one has like this really beautiful Hawaiian energy to it. So I love that, with the rainbow and the tropical flowers in the background. And then whether you see that as water waist high, or how you see that, you know, because water is emotion. And yeah, there's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of water under the bridge. There's a lot that has come to pass. And, you know, it's necessary for us to give ourselves time to really digest all of that and unpack all of that, and really like have to be with that in order to get really clear on what's coming with us, you know, because if we try to carry it all, we're not going to be able to pick the new and receive the new.
And I'm really, to me, what's really coming up, especially when you said about the figure, you know, being on the top of these steps, like, you know, this is as far as it's going to take you. This to me really represents the hero's journey. And I was even making a point to bring to everybody's attention that we entered this year, 2024, with Moon in Virgo. And also when Mars became the ruler of North Node in July, Mars was in Virgo. So this Virgo archetype, which is about learning and adjusting, and to me, Virgo represents the hero's journey, because it's this learning, it's going through life, making mistakes, so-called mistakes, because every single thing you've ever done, which can be perceived as mistake, taught you something. If nothing else, it taught you, okay, I don't want to go that way anymore. But technically, what this figure on number 9, Nine of Swords, represents to me is that we continued the same patterns and we followed the path that was made for us previously, but there is just so far you can go until you have to learn it to do it for yourself. So she's getting to this point where she's like, okay, and now what? You decide. And that's the Capricorn. And even another thing that popped into my mind to mention with this Hanged Man is that it's in opposite, well, because this is how I was taught tarot, what is the pair with it? And it's the number 3. And the number 3 is the Empress. And what is Venus currently is in the sign of Sagittarius. So what is this telling me in the, you know, this non-direct way, Neptunian way behind the veil, is that what we're learning right now is to learn about ourselves. This is the process which we are finding ourselves in, that we really is the opportunity to truly get to know yourself, get to know where you have your resistance, where you don't trust yourself, where is your mind controlling your world and recreating your reality, but you control your mind, you know, like your soul, your spirit is in charge. But it's like, you know, where is the balance? Like, do we allow our chitty chatty, you know, our monkey mind to control our life? And then with that 9, it's saying that, well, this is a huge year where we'll have the opportunity for expansion, but how that's going to take place depends on your perception and how much you trust yourself and how much you allow all these projection of reality through minds to make you feel as a prisoner of it. So these three cards to me have such a deep meaning because it's richly representing the hero's journey. We now came to the point where there is an obstacle. We see like, oh my God, it's all lost. Where is there to go? With all this fog, everything is in a distance, nothing is clear. All this chitter chatter in our mind, which is making us feel stuck and imprisoned, creates resistance. Let not go, let not go. We don't know where we're going. Let's just hold on for dear life to the survival mode, because this is where majority of people unfortunately are, in their survival mode. But behind all of that, which we cannot see, which is that a hanged man, look at it from different perspective without invalidating the human experience, but try to look at it multidimensionally, expand your horizons and see, what is this teaching me about me and about what I came here to experience, and how much power you actually have, and how much this Taurus, this survival, self-sufficiency, self-reliance, that which helped you to survive until this point, is this Taurus. It's within you, that you overcame everything. And in opposition is Scorpio, which is your resiliency. So I feel that we are all going to be tested on whatever degree that's going to show up in your personal individual experience, because this is the learning, this is the hero's journey. And we will never feel empowered or get to the other side of it where we conquered the obstacle without actually facing it.
Wow. Yeah, so much there. I mean, I love that resiliency word because it feels like trading the resistance for resilience, and, as the mantra here says, I flow through resistance and I am in control. So it's like I'm flowing through it. How am I going to go through it? Am I going to go kicking and screaming, or am I going to flow? Yeah, the water's waist high, but it's not over my head. It's high. Here it is. I see it. I feel it. I'm flowing through it. I'm allowing it to pass over me. And then, through that act of allowing and flowing, there is resilience versus resistance, and it's so true. Like if the story says I'm suffering in silence, that I'm bound, I'm held, I can't move, then yeah, it does feel like that. The walls are closing in. I can whip myself up into a real frenzy, feeling those walls closing in on me, but it's just it's a perception. It's happening in the mind. And that's really highlighted here because of these double swords. It's really very mental. It's very much in the mind. And actually I just heard that too, like from Lee Harris, about so much of this journey is going to be mental and happening energetically, not so much physical action, and so much of it is happening up in here because we've already spent so much time there, so obviously going through all of those things is going to take some time, and yet again, there's perseverance because it's not that far away. It is there in the distance. So it's really going to be how we perceive it that's going to make up, our perception of the reality that is around us.
And how we choose to identify it, because the 8 and 9, it's like a Gemini quality, the mutable quality of the swords. So it's like literally, again, the Mercury is coming up, and Mercury is all about choice. And what I'm tapping into here is also the Jupiter moving into Gemini, because the number 12 comes to number 3, which is the Jupiterian number. Plus, we are in the year 8, which is ruled by Saturn and Jupiter. Both qualities are present. So it is an opportunity when we do face our greatest fears and we tap into that unlimited source of who you truly are, which is a divine being having a human experience. And the only restriction we see it perceiving is coming through our mind, because that's how we identify in that situation. But when we overcome all of this and get to the other side of it with the 9 of Swords, then the sky is the limit. Literally, she's got all this vast landscape to explore, and it's up to her to decide what she wants to do with it. So that's why I feel that this year really is the word pivotal has been coming up for you, for me, for many of the other spiritual teachers we are following. It is really a pivotal year, and these cards are really clearly describing the collective energy, which on the surface, it's quite heavy. It is quite like, doesn't feel too good, but behind what we don't see with the Hanged Man is something different, which is this, that, you have the opportunity with the number 8, which is the number of the abundance. You have the opportunity to create your best life ever. But in order to get there, we need to face that which is still creating the resistance in us having it, which in many cases is our own mind and our beliefs. So I really feel it's all about this Mercury and this Gemini, which is there is a choice. And the choice comes from how do you perceive it? What informations you gather, what you focus on, which again, I want to take it back to what you mentioned in your videos. What do you digest? What are we feeding ourselves? And a lot of that is mental. So I let you to speak about that.
Yes, all of what you said. And I feel like when you're mentioning Mercury and Gemini too, and I'm feeling that, yes, it can be heavy. And right, so there's this dualistic energy to it. There's these two things that are coexisting at the same time, and it is tricky. And it can be very covert or overt, right? With the resistance, it can be in your face, like, it's upside down and I don't know where to go from here, or it can be very sneaky. And so I feel like totally feeling what you're explaining and more in the technical details. And I'm feeling that like, yeah, it's like, it can come across like it feels very limiting and heavy, and let it be heavy. It is, we're not glossing over the fact that yes, it's heavy. I feel like this is something that you were talking about the other day, because we're sort of like in this place where we're like, yeah, this year is going to be, one for the books. It's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be all these things coming up. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be tower moments, or there's going to be these things, but it's kind of like, in this moment right here and now, like I'm sort of here for it. Like I sort of feel like, okay, I'm not saying it's going to be all rainbows and sunshine, but there's also something for me coming in about community, and for connecting with other people, because there is a sense of like being able to share in that load, which is interesting. Yes, yeah, because you don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to suffer in silence. The nine of swords and nine of wands, nine of swords often feel like left holding the bag, like having all, like being bandaged and overwhelmed because you're trying to carry all that yourself. And I think too, that's where I'm feeling this sense of like, you don't have to suffer in silence. And there's actually a lot of power in being able to, release and express what you're feeling or experiencing. And if it's heavy, it's heavy. But it's very important to have some type of a support system, whatever that is for you, whatever your outlet is, to be able to share in that. And there's a lot of strength in hearing other people and understanding like, oh, wow, that's heavy for you too. Like that's heavy also. Like we can both be navigating things that are heavy, or we can all be in a place where, we're really feeling out of control or unsure of what's next. But then there's something about the light that comes in when we're able to connect in that way, is what I'm feeling now. And I'm leaning towards whether we need another card here that I want.
Yeah, right. Number
I don't
4,
like swords. I don't want just swords.
yeah, like we need another major arcana on the other side.
Yeah.
But just to piggyback on what you said, I really feel that because a lot of people do feel alone. They do feel alone because, we don't know what somebody else's experience until they share it with us. And then still we don't know what's their experience, because you can only have your experience, right? But that's another aspect of this year, which I feel will bring people together. It will divide people, but it will bring people together as well, because usually throughout human history, every time there was challenging situation, it brought the humanness out of people, because like we've discussed, that the heart never gets broken close, it gets broken open. So that's why I feel that really it is going to, like like when they say that this is gonna hurt but then it gets better, like it's, I guess when you taking the the band-aid off or whatever, like you have to go through the drip, and then it gets better, then there is a release. Or when people have like a pus and stuff where you need to get it, you need to clean, or infection, you need to clean it, but it hurts like hell, but then after that the healing takes place and there is a release. So this is kind of the energy I'm tapping into, that, okay, I'm not saying, oh my God, this year is going to be Armageddon and everybody's going to have a bad time or whatever. I'm saying, I don't know what it's going to look like for other people. There are a lot of energies present that are saying this is going to be an interesting, a very pivotal, very transformative year, whatever way that needs to take place for it to happen. But I feel that in a heart of hearts, it's going to create an opportunity for people to see to also see their true light, than to see where there is a light or a lack of light outside of them, and to bring people together, because we are a human collective consciousness and we are co-creating this reality together. And there will be definitely an opportunity for us to gravitate towards the people that you resonate with. So you don't have to struggle in silence, for sure.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I was feeling like, our collective suffering is creating the bridge. Like I'm seeing it like a bridge, like bit by bit being formed through. And when I say suffering too, same, like I don't mean doom and gloom language, because anything that's unpleasant or non-preferred, we could say is something that we would rather not experience, right? So
It is the resistance. The
yeah,
resistance
I
is the
have
core of
resistance
suffering.
because who wants to sign up to go have that infected thing squeezed out or whatever? Like, no, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to experience that, But I recognize that on the other side of it, there's healing, there's new beginning, And so I feel like, I don't know, I was just seeing, and I was thinking of how I brought the magenta bridge in, because this is actually beautiful. I work with this Amanda Ellis's healing energy sprays. Magenta bridge is all about unity consciousness. It is all about that bridge of connecting. And actually, as I talked in the reading a little bit about some of the channeled words, it almost covers all of the challenges and things that we experience on the fool's journey. Where again, I don't know, I'm just feeling this bridge energy of like, how you take one step or make one connection and then the next one is illuminated and the next one. So it's like seeing the fog or the mist clear here through our collective suffering. Suffering in silence is not going to build this bridge. The bridge has to be built co-creatively, right? So there's this co-creation and collaboration happening in the three energy that we keep seeing, of through our collective suffering, our collective resistance, and how do we become aware of that resistance? Like we have to feel the tension. We have to feel the weight of that in order to become aware that it's been keeping us imprisoned, and sort of like the veil coming clear, or the mist dissipating, to where then all of a sudden we see, oh yeah, look at that. I don't even have to climb up. There's just a bridge. I'm seeing like this, like, Indiana Jones, like those rickety bridges in the jungle that are like plank and rope, and it's just like, oh, I'll just walk straight across here, like I didn't know that was there. I didn't see it because I was suffering in silence in my prison of my own making.
And another thing which is becoming very, again, behind the veil, multidimensional, that's popped out of that, is this unity consciousness, that you don't suffer in silence, because actually on a core level we have much more in common than what divides us, because we are all human. Our body operates in similar ways. We have similar needs. Most people want the same thing: to be happy, to be loved, to be safe, all these kind of things. So when we look at it from that perspective, there is much more that unites us than divides us, but it's again about the perception and what do we focus on. So I think when challenging things really happens in the world collectively, then we realize that actually, we're not so different. We're not so different. And this is where we head in, because the heart consciousness, the 5-dimensional, experience is all about unity. It's even when we experience people channeling beings, they are a collective. There is very rarely when any channels one single being. Very rarely, even when they channel Archangel Michael, usually the Archangel Michael essence will speak as we. They usually speak as a collective. And this is where we head into this unity consciousness, because us being humans, and it's ridiculous that still we have, and I mean, this is obviously we're not ready for that yet, but that on planet Earth, which is a home for human collective, we have all these borders and we have all these passports and all these visas and stuff. And I'm like, well, how are you different from me? Just because you are different. So this is where we're heading, but obviously we're not there yet. But this is kind of what is, like, again, like, the next level behind everything we can see is that this is actually something that is supposed to help us to bridge the gap to create this unity consciousness.
Yeah. Wow. So what do you think? Should we pick one more card?
Yeah, because it's kind of the 9 is like hanging there, and
I
what
know, I just feel like, okay, like a little something, even if we don't get to know it all, you know? So
yeah, it
let's
might be the Fool.
yeah. So what do we need to know here in the in-between? Let's get us some highest and best advice here for us or guidance to just sort of round this out, hold us over.
Ah, of
You
course.
know, he came up in our new moon reading for the empowerment pack.
Yes.
So we're not getting out of the structure and the strategizing too much. So this is the Emperor, right? Major Arcana card 4. So that is bringing in some structure, and I see the 2 pillars on either side. Um, we actually got 2 cards that featured this golden ring of wisdom,
Mhm.
as I called it, around the crown. So there's illumination. So you called it. We got our 2 major arcana cards on both ends.
It's perfect.
And there is some rigidity and structure here too. And so when it's in balance, it's actually very grounded and level and able to make decisions with great care, nothing like knee-jerk reactions. But you know, when it's challenged, it also can be very rigid and very much, you know, in the head or strategizing or analytical. So it's just you can't get through here. There's no passing through here without experiencing. You got to flow through resistance. You're not getting through this with your fists. So I feel like he's sort of the gatekeeper.
But you see, for me, this is just perfect because it represents, as I argue with everyone, this represents Mars in Capricorn, and Mars is in Capricorn. But,
Mm.
for me, the main reason why this card is perfect is number 4, and we have 4 cards now, from this deck, and 4 represents Saturn. But what this really represents to me, and I know you're familiar with this, when you ask the spirit, and spirit tells you, what do you need me for? You already know. Like, so this is what this guy, literally, this is your higher self saying, what are you asking me for? You need to take responsibility for your life. You are the divine. You already know, you have the halo around your head. You are a divine being having a human experience, but you keep externalizing your power and asking me or someone else to tell you, which, as we discussed, I had a chat on it
We did. I know.
yesterday,
I was just leaning in to
right?
go,
And the
"Hmm,
spirit is
sounds
like, I'm
familiar."
not going to tell you the answer, So this is so perfect because this is a true Capricornian flavor. That's why I do not agree that Emperor is Aries,
You don't feel
because
the
Aries
Aries.
is not Aries, because Aries is immature.
I was
Capricorn
gonna
is
say it's too immature
maturity.
for you. Hmm.
Yeah. So this man, he looks like, well, yeah, okay, he can be very rigid, but he's got some years behind him and some experience, which gives him the sense that, okay, I know what I'm talking about. But Emperor is the Mars in Capricorn. It is this Mars that's gone through 10 zodiacal sign, and it says, now I have the experience. I can make conscious decision and take responsibility for my action. And this is what this whole year is about. That universe is going to push us and push us and push us until we take that standpoint where we say enough, boundaries, and your higher self is going to say, no, you need to take responsibility and to create the reality you want to experience, because universe is your oyster.
Well, I think you've convinced me. I agree. I see. I know exactly what you're saying. There really isn't an instance where the emperor is immature because it's the divine masculine. It's father energy. So it's definitely mature masculine energy, which you're right. You wouldn't see that necessarily, but that maybe, okay. So the disempowered emperor behaves more like an Aries. So there is still ramping and a very like, energy there. But yeah, that's really interesting. I like to add that then to my repertoire of ways of interpreting this card because, in some ways the mature and seasoned version would be
Mars in
the
Capricorn.
so also another thing that you picked up on is you likened this card to the
Neptune.
Empress,
Oh,
who is
yes.
the divine counterpart of the
Perfect.
Emperor. So I just want to show the golden rings of wisdom and how interesting, as they're both put here. So this is fertility, this is authority, but we're seeing, I love the golden ring, but also the egg shape, because once again, it hasn't hatched yet, right? So that's the hanged man energy that you picked up on. The reason we're saying that is because it's a 12, which is a 3, and this is card 3. This is 4. So you had already called out, feeling the Empress vibes there. And sure enough, there we go. And so again, look what's illuminated: the heart, not the head.
Exactly.
Yeah, the head's illuminated but it's not in like a, you're so smart that you can figure anything out in your brain. It's about the third eye. It's about your intuition. It's the crown energy of, that higher wisdom that's coming in, and it comes in through the pause. It comes in through this period of in between. So there is something incubating. There is something that we're creating from a heart space that will come. I mean, it's here, it's there, it's in the distance, but I really think that's so cool, because I was thinking like, oh yeah, the Empress, and what do they look like next to each other? And I really feel that with this, what's coming forward.
And to
But
me, this also represents the healing of the divine feminine and masculine, and the balance in between the two, because that's also what is rampant in the world, this disconnection, this disconnection. And again, the hangman, we need to look at it from different perspective. We need to close this old cycle of division, because Neptune is the unity. It's the coming back to the source to see the deeper meaning. And the empress and the emperor, they co-create together. Is the feminine and masculine. And this doesn't just put, yeah, you are a man and you are a woman. We all have aspects of both. So this is like, Richie, this is how we, and the nodes are being in Aries and Libra, the masculine and the feminine, the me against you, and then the striving for the balance, the striving for the equality, the co-creating of the new relational paradigm, where nobody has to lose, where everybody can have their needs met. And literally, that's what I mean. These cards, they so deep. They literally represent this entire year and what we're going to be tackling in ourselves on our individual level, and then see it reflected in the collective, and vice versa, because everything is a mirror.
yeah. Wow. I know. I could just I see it so much, and it just keeps going, because yeah, there is just the illusion of suffering in silence. We're not actually separate. It's unity consciousness, but we have to be stuck, held up here, and feel it again, feel the tension, experience it in order to learn that. It can't just be being told like, oh no, you have both masculine and feminine, and you can, you're experiencing it. That's the fool's journey, has come to come into this body and have a tangible experience of what it is to be in separation, what it is to be in each of these states of resistance and such, in order to build that bridge, that pathway forward, which comes through the unity of those two things. That starts with you. It starts within you. When you can balance your own masculine and feminine energies within you. And I think too, like, that's automatically we picture certain things. We say masculine and feminine, but we're talking like yin, yang, that's what we're saying here: to know, do, and be. So we're talking the masculine and the feminine energy, here. And they're both a little bit out of balance right now, when we see that the do and the be that came up for us are both, but yet a lot closer than they realize, 8, 9, right? Like, so it's so symbolic. Like, there's just so many layers. Whatever speaks to you, whatever like puts that light bulb on over your head and brings your rainbow in, that's the point. Stay here as long as you need to. Hang here until you bing, until you come online.
Yeah, the cards are just gonna speak to you more. But at the end of the day, it's still saying that you are the creator of your reality, and this year you're gonna get the chance to decide what reality you want to experience, based on whatever we had the opportunity to heal in ourselves, so it's not creating any more resistance to the change, because the change is inevitable.
Yeah. So this is the time to look at the seed and think about what you're planting, which of course brings the Empress back again. In your spiritual garden, we don't feed the weeds, right? So we're focusing on what we're wishing to bring in, and focus on your garden, not what's going on in their garden over there, or all the different gardens, but being focused within. And that's why we feel held up in some cases, or sensing that resistance, but it's time to flow.
But
So
people who do inversions, like in yoga or whatever, they can see, they can definitely attest to that, well, when you go upside down, you see world very differently. So this is what this whole year represents. Well, it's an opportunity, or it's going to be a push to see things from a very different perspective to what we have seen it until now.
Yeah. Yeah. So for sure, we're being shown all different perspectives and experiencing them all, so that when we come out on the other end, it's going to look perhaps quite different.
Like rainbows.
Like rainbows. That's what's in my seed.
Yeah. And if you don't see it, you create it, right? Like you always say to me, you create it and they will come.
Yes. Yes. That's been coming up a lot lately.
So somebody has to be the first one, you know, there has to be someone to start. So,
Yeah.
you know, why not
So
you?
yeah, we're doing it. Wow. Okay.
Ooh.
So have we got a template to move forward?
I think so. I think we complete. I think the cards are very loud and clear. And it's again
Mhm.
paradoxical, right?
Yeah.
Because even with the what we call in astrology paradoxical chart is the one starting with Libra rising. And that's just perfect, because that's what we're working towards, to create a different way of relating to one another. And this is a paradoxical new moon, which is saying about endings and beginnings, but everything happening at the same time.
Yeah. So just throw out the rule book because we're rewriting it.
Well, with Neptune as the first card, Hangman, I don't think that, you know, looking at it from the same perspective, logically, it's going to work anyway.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Cool. Well, this was definitely a roller coaster.
Mhm.
So I guess this is how we're going to feel at the end of the year when we're going to do the second new moon in Capricorn.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it'll be so neat to see on the other end. We'll be like, didn't we say? And come back here and see what all came up, and then what it looks like on the other side.
Yeah, because this is going to be the one and only video we're going to release this week. So we just like we need to give this theme out there, because it's a very important one that's going to literally show us the entire year forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's definitely telling.
All right. So that's episode 13.1, huh?
Well, I think it's just gonna be 13. Like we're just gonna keep it in itself, 13.
Oh
And
yeah, this one stands alone. You're right. This one needs to be its own episode 13, so that we can move, which is a 4 energy as well.
right. Maybe we're gonna do
That's right.
13.2 at
Perfect
the end of
square.
the year.
Leave it be, and then we'll see what happens on the other end. Okay.
So as always, Marissa, please tell everyone what are you offering these days and where they can find you.
Okay. Well, right here and now, I do have the new moon reading that we've been talking about. I do have a special offer for that, to extend that to anyone who may not be with us for the whole month for the empowerment pack. But if you would like, this is an awesome opportunity, because I'm going to throw in the January month ahead reading. So it's a twofer for the month ahead reading and the full new moon reading that I did with the spread and the things that we've been talking about. And then also for you would be your personal card pulls, where we tune into your intentions and any questions that you have in and around this new moon and the seeds you're planting, and see what comes up for you with that. So that's the time sensitive special for this week that's available. And then of course, the 2024 year ahead spreads are in full swing. So I'm working on those, and that's your full year, a 24 card spread that looks out into this very pivotal year.
Yeah, I highly recommend. I'm just going through mine now.
I know, I can't wait for you to watch the second part.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, as always, people can find me on my socials and also on my website, moonlightsoul369.com. And yeah, thank you for everybody's attention and time. I hope that you found the value in this. Thank you, Marissa, for making a time for me in your super busy schedule. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to the next one.
Me too. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.